This is my backyard farm with the neighbors with their chainsaw. That is a loofah hanging off my deck. I have all of my cukes pretty much hanging off my deck. And we're gonna do a little garden tour. So these are all my pollinators right here. I have lavender, lots of pollinators. It's end of season. We are hitting almost September here. And lots of pollinators. This is my septic hill. So at the top of my septic hill, I have just wildflowers, different pollinator flowers to help with pollination. You can see there's lots of bees. Can't hear it because of the damn chainsaw or whatever they're doing. Here is some cucumbers, end of season cucumbers. I've been getting for my family of 4 and for some family and friends. I have 8 cucumber plants and I get probably 2 cucumbers a day all summer long off these plants. So they're just in those bins I got off of Facebook Marketplace and just from the garden center. So I just keep a storage bin here because I have no shed. So these are what my cucumbers are in. Potatoes were in there previously, so I've harvested my potatoes and then I just topped it off and added cucumber plants to just try and get some more cukes for pickling. And I'm not a big pickle fan, so I don't really grow a lot of cukes, but I do like cucumber juice, so I will make a lot of cucumber juice. And these are more pollinators, end of season. These tomatoes I did not plant there, but I'm just letting them go. This will feed the wildlife that come through here and keep the raccoons out of my gardens. There's some sweet potatoes getting ready to harvest. What else do we got? More cucumbers. Yeah, did not plant that. So just covered my septic hill with some bins. Oh, there's a cantaloupe. There was another cantaloupe. Oh, it's down there. Gotta harvest it with my big bowl. So the cantaloupes will just fall off the vine when they're ready. And there it is. And that is a French variety of cantaloupe that I bought from the farmer's market years ago and saved the seeds and grow them every year. And we are going to pick some tomatoes for the wildlife that I have a bowl for. So I do also have these bee houses on my deck that the raccoons like to knock off and suck out the honey. So that's why that one's broken. And to bring the pollinators I overwinter them. I'd like to get into keeping bees, but I only have 0.22 of an acre, so I don't think my neighbors will allow that. So back to the tomatoes. I have another sweet potato. I have 4 different varieties of sweet potato. There is more cukes. So these were all potato bins that I needed to... Here we go. Look at this. One plant has 4 cucumbers. We're only going to pick 2 of them today. 2 cucumbers. So that goes into the bowl. So like I said, these were potatoes. Harvested the potatoes and then added the cucumbers. And again, you can see the hill, the septic hill. It's just all pollinators, and they will drop seed and redo again. I just leave bachelor buttons. That's what all those dried up ones are. We are zone 7A, and at the bachelor buttons, it's 36 degrees here all week at the end of August, beginning of September. So the bachelor buttons will reseed, and so will the calendra and a lot of the others. They're self-seeding, so that's all I have to worry about. Another variety of sweet potato. This is this is hilarious. I did not plant this here. This is an elderberry, and for some reason the birds must have dropped a seed in with my flowers, but I'm just going to leave it and let it grow and find a new home for it later. that is a pepper plant there that also I didn't grow. So raccoon must have ate a pepper and then pooped the seeds. So we're just gonna leave it grow. These bins, like I said, they were potatoes. For a family of 4, I like the bin method of potatoes, because that way it's just dump and grab, and I don't have to, it's not a lot of work, it's very fast. For my family of 4, I think I had 18 bins of potatoes, and then once those were harvested, I just fill the bins or just leave them filled with dirt, and or put some cucumbers in there. Just last minute stuff. But yeah, there's the sweet potatoes. It is a mess back here because, like I said, it's the end of the season, so the winds knocked off my bee hives, keep wasps away. And this polytunnel, I keep all the brush there because when I close it up, it's going to go back into the soil and feed the soil. And this was all garlic. I'm going to plant garlic October after the full moon. And this was all garlic. I had a prolific year of garlic. Beautiful, beautiful, big, nice heads of garlic. So again, just filling with whatever randomness to plant, just to keep it going. I have carrots, some yellow beets. I have looks like a honeydew in there, some beans. It was not a good year for beans for me. Last year was a good year for beans. I typically don't do beans every year. I do them every other year, and I'm not a big canning bean. These are purple beans. Look how nice those are. But they're not a good year. There's only a couple beans on here. So you'll notice my lovely pink boots. We have rattlesnakes and black widows and other snakes, so I wear big boots. Here is, I believe that's a honeydew. We're supposed to have a Indian summer, so hopefully that goes for another month. And then just picking some of the purple beans. And like I said, I will eat what I pick today and eat seasonally. And this is, like I said, my garlic bed. There's a rosemary. I make rosemary oil for my hair, rosemary water for my hair, a lot of tinctures because it's good for your health, cooking. And so I also practice regenerative farming, so chop and drop basically. So that's what that is over there. It's going to replenish my soil. And this bed here was onions, so I just topped it off with some peas. That'll come into October, late October. And then this is a tomato that I did not plant. Again, the raccoon is helping me garden. Some more beans. Those are fava beans. This is my favorite variety of tomatoes. It's called Mortgage Lifter. You've never had a tomato as good as this one. Hopefully, with this heat, it'll turn red in the next few weeks here before the frost. But and then a cucumber. Just filling this bed. Like I said, this was all onions, so just filling. There's some dill, end of season dill, and some more tomatoes. What else do I have? It's a mess back here because I have a baby grandson who's just turned a year, so it's been a busy year, so not a lot of time to weed. And this is just filling the holes basically after I've harvested the onions, just to get something going. More pollinators. These are cosmos. Cosmos are crazy, but yet you can see the weeds. And then tomatoes that I did not plant. So we're going to harvest some tomatoes today. So you'll notice I do a lot of companion planting and a lot of permaculture. So the key is to bring in your pollinators and beneficial plants so that you don't have to worry about pests. I have no grubs because I plant my tomatoes with dill, with rosemary, with what else? Basil. So that is keeping everything kosher so that everything grows and less work. There's my dog. No, it's my neighbor's dog. He watches me. We have bears too, so I enjoy his company. So here's more of my potato bins that I did not fill. I have one more potato. I'm just waiting for that to finish. I have tons of elderberries. I just did a batch, 12 jars of elderberry syrup, elderberry and vodka tincture for flu season. And I'm going to do some more in a bit. But yeah, I keep the pallets there as just for the climbing vines that I had there, for the peas and that I had previously. And there's some rose hips there and elderberries, more elderberries. Down there was a cantaloupe, pumpkin, and that was the cantaloupe. But you can see my hill. It's end of season, but this hill is usually covered in flowers. My echinacea that I had drying, and those are hacksips. End of season for hacksips. And then you can see the pumpkin in there. So again, we're at the end of the season here, but you can see all the pollinators, different kinds of bees, all the different plants to bring in the pollinators. So you want to work harder, not smarter. Just kidding. Smarter, not harder. And there's some bees, but there's some strawberries in there. You can see, just waiting for, there's some more I have to harvest. There's some rhubarb, and I have roses. Roses at the top, another rhubarb and pumpkin. Then I have a row of lilacs, and then I have a row of peonies, and another row of roses, and my septic tank, or that's my propane tank. And we'll go over there in a minute. But yeah, my yard is a mess right now because of my grandbaby. Normally it's like perfect and pristine, and it is end of season, so everyone gets a little tired at the end. And it's just harvesting, canning, all the things to do, the weeding. But I like the regenerative permaculture gardening because it's less work and less weeds. And I do chop and drop. So you just pick, drop, pick, drop. Pick the weeds, put the weeds in the bin, make a fertilizer tea, and then you have fertilizer, and away you go. But I'm going to pause the video and go pick my strawberries. So those are the few strawberries I got. I normally leave the wild strawberries for the birds, but I just wanted to show you the different size comparisons. I do have a lot of crops that I just like trap crops for the birds to eat, so that they don't eat the food that I eat. And just for the critters as well, because you want beneficials in your yard. So I don't have a problem with crickets or squash bugs or anything like that, because I bring in a lot of birds, and the birds will eat those up. And there's a random rhubarb. I have probably about 5 different rhubarb bushes, and I make rhubarb wine with the rhubarb, and gives rhubarb pie, rhubarb raspberry pie, so give them to the neighbors. Yeah, I have way too many cucumber. There's more cucumbers. I probably get about 4 a day. There's another one. This one I'm going to leave for a little bit longer. So in this retaining wall, I have pollinators. Then I have corn, which we already harvested with the scarlet runner beans. I do the 3 sisters, so corn, beans, squash, and melons. So I planted, I think 40 kernels of corn, which we've harvested and prepared, and now the scarlet runner beans should be finishing here soon. And you can see the squash, pumpkin, butternut squash down here, butternut. There's some watermelon down there. Always way too, this is my squash melon hill, so we'll go down there. But family of 4, get all my, I think I have 13 butternut squash, 6 pumpkins, and some spaghetti squashes. My random fig tree, my apple mint, another melon that I've already picked, my grapes that the raccoon keeps eating. There's the ginger. I gotta transfer the ginger later. Oh, more cucumbers. That one, let's see. Yeah, we'll pick that one. Good size. There's some acorn squash. Yes, I am aware it's a mess. I explained why. There's more rhubarb. I do have these filled with water just because like we have water shortages here and fires and whatnot, so fill those with water and just random things that I did not plant that grow. So back to my squash hill. This is a hill that we were going to put a pool in, but decided not to because I'd rather garden. And pumpkins, so I just let this hill go wild. Death trap. Squash. Look at that bag. That's gotta be, that's a big boy. And you can see pumpkins. Let's zoom in. Pumpkins. They're sneaky, they're hiding. Another spaghetti squash. Oh, there's a big pumpkin over there. Big pumpkin. Look at that, interesting. I do plant some heirloom varieties. And not sure what that one is, but we'll wait and see. Again, end of season. This is yellow variety of squash. Zucchini, we're gonna pick that. Some more potatoes, another squash. I need to pick off the ones that didn't pollinate very well so they can start again. So I make use of the space that I have. Like I said, I'm only a 0.22 of an acre, and I have a family of 4, and I grow enough food for the year. Butternut squash. And I just learned to make a coconut curry zucchini soup with all my zucchinis because I was like, what am I going to do? I always grow way too much zucchini and cucumbers because I love them, but then I get sick of them near the end of the season. There's another cuke and another acorn squash. More pollinators that are done for the season. Some more squashes down there. And pumpkin. There's some crooked neck squash I gotta get. And here are my raspberries. They're just going to be popping off again for fall. Watermelon. I left the black tarp down because it draws heat for the melons. The black weed cover. So it draws the heat in. For the watermelons. More raspberries. Yes, I'm aware it's a mess. End of season. And there's another butternut squash. Another cuke. Watermelon. And another melon I already picked. And then my trap crops. Look at that guy. So this was my onion bed. Another onion bed that I had. So just filling the holes. So as you can see, the butternut squash. There's some celery for next year. Celery will come up in the again. And more squash. I left some trap plants here for what I do. If I do have squash bugs, they feed on this and leave my other stuff alone. And there's the crooked necks. Normally I do pick the flowers and fry the flowers up, but this year I didn't do that. Again, with a grandson, it gets pretty hectic, so it's been, leaving things to the last minute. It's been a year, let's say that. Here's my French variety of zucchini. These are tasty. Look at that. Look at that. That's got to be like 1 pound. I have hazelnut trees, a cherry tree, my sad peach tree. We got 40 pounds of peaches off this tree, and I got greedy. It was my first year being successful at peaches, and I didn't thin my peaches, and because I got greedy seeing all those peaches, and the branch broke off. So I've covered it with the wax, and we'll go from there. Hopefully it survives the winter. And I pruned this, and look at how far it grew. I pruned my cherry tree, and this is a lilac nectarine tree that I pruned. Look at how that grew. I gotta prune it again in February. My apples. I gotta prune that again. And you can see I fill chop and drop. That's why you see all chop and drop. It's good for the soil. And there's a peach tree. Again, you can see chop and drop going on there. Sweet almond. And another apple tree. Apples. And then blueberry. So lots of pollinators down here. This is a hawthorn. And this bush here, blackcurrant, which I've already harvested my blackcurrants. The rest are for the deer on the other side of the fence, and for the birds. And another variety of hawthorn. So just making use of the space that I have. Lilac, pollinators, flowers, mountain ash, sweet almond, my maple tree, and my pear tree. So I did not thin my pear tree because I got busy. You can see how it's weeping over. Normally you want to just leave 3 or 4 pears on a branch so it doesn't break. So this needs some heavy duty pruning for next year. And you must thin your peaches, your apricots. Well, you don't have to thin your apricots, but your nectarines, your heavy fruit, your pears, your apples, you should be thinning them and leaving only a few per branch, because look, they are so small. And you just heard the partridges fly away because I scared them. But yeah, partridge in a pear tree. So again, these pears are only about 2 inches big, and so we are heading into September, so they're not going to get much bigger, but I'm going to make pear butter out of whatever I get. But again, got busy, didn't thin them, and this is what happens. So you definitely don't want your tree breaking, but the deer have been helping me out on the other side of that fence. So these garden beds are just 4x4, which I got from Amazon. These ones are really good. I really liked them. They're about 6 years old. This was another onion bed that I filled with beans to nitrogen the soil, and just some carrots. Companion planting, I practiced that. This one has peas. There's my nasturtiums. You can see the raccoon opening the septic there to eat the little grubs, which I don't mind. And then a squash. And just random, I just, like I said, at the end of the season when I harvest everything, just putting things into last minute to pull for the fall. My kale is at the end of season because it's 36 degrees here, so it does not look good. My rosemary, another squash. These beds are 8x4. Celery. This is my celery bed. It's going to seed for next year. And these are my beets, which I need to harvest soon. The cosmos that I did not plant, but I just left. And this is another onion bed with chives that I just filled with carrots. That was my carrot bed that I harvested and left some carrots, and now they're gonna lettuce. I do not like this bed here. You can see I got this off Amazon, and yeah, you can see that it's rusting and peeling, and it's not like my other beds. So I really did not like this one from Amazon. It's only a year old, so that is not what it's supposed to look like. And this one is a different one. These ones are different. I thought it was the same manufacturer, but they're different. They're the same as those ones. So again, buyer beware, because that one's going to have to be replaced, and pretty sure paint isn't good for my garden. So, and I also burn all my stuff, but we are on a fire ban, so that's what all this is. So I just put tarps down to control the weeds, and we're gonna burn this once the fire ban is lifted, and then we put it back into the garden